As we slowly inch closer and closer to WrestleMania 41, we are starting to see what kind of feuds we're going to get for this year's WrestleMania. And that alone has me excited as a wrestling fan. To me, this is the most exciting time to be a wrestling fan is on the road to WrestleMania because you get the best of the best stories being told at the right time and you're seeing what could be the conclusion of what has been a year-long story. And my initial plan for this video was to go through every feud that WWE is doing right now and rank them. But instead of doing that, I simply just ranked them in terms of my excitement for the feuds and for the matches themselves. And before we get too far ahead in the video, if you are a WWE fan, consider subscribing. That's all we post here on this channel is WWE related content. So if you are a WWE fan, consider subscribing. It's free. You can always change your mind later. The first feud that I am most excited to see may have a touch of bias to them. I have Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens. And if you've watched my channel, you probably have heard me say that Randy Orton is my favorite WWE superstar of all time. Well, Kevin Owens just so happens to be number 2. So while yes, this one may be a biased pick, this is the feud, this is the match that has me the most excited because it is my 2 favorite superstars of all time. But even taking the bias away from it, while the feud has kind of been a slow burner up to this point, it feels like, the story that's already been told between the two is really, really good so far. You have all the history between them being tag team partners and then Kevin Owens turning on Randy Orton. And now, this kind of next chapter to their story is you're seeing Kevin Owens using what is supposed to be a banned move in the pile driver. And now you have Randy Orton talking about possibly bringing back another banned move in the punt kick. And Randy Orton's last promo that he cut really, really got me excited because he started talking about the voices in his head, and we started getting glimpses of who Randy Orton truly is. Randy Orton is the goddamn apex predator of WWE, for God's sakes. And I'm not saying that Randy needs to turn heel or whatever. Randy Orton just needs to be Randy Orton. And his moveset is already fantastic, obviously. But what makes Randy Orton is his character work itself. Being the Vipe, the slow walk that he makes, that is Randy Orton. And when Randy Orton's hearing the voices in his head, that's when we get the best version of Randy Orton, in my opinion. So again, I feel like the story has already kind of been told between these two, and that's why we're kind of seeing more of a slow burn for their WrestleMania match, because we already really know the story. But I do like the fact that they are trying to evolve it in some way, and they're kind of making it more about the banned moves. And Randy wanted to bring back the punt kick, and Kevin Owens continuously using the pile driver. I love the story. I love both Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. That is why it is my number 1 most excited feud for WrestleMania 41. Moving on to number 2, I've got Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins. Now, I will say that pretty recently I uploaded a video on this channel about this feud, so if you missed that video, go back and check that one out. Come back to this one. The insane amount of talent that is in this match is something that WWE fans dream of. Not just the in-ring talent alone, but you also have one of the best mic workers in WWE history in Paul Heyman involved in it. And I love that Paul Heyman is playing such a key factor into this match, into this feud. And the theories that are coming from it are insane. Because on one hand, you have CM Punk trying to drive a wedge between Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns, and the possibilities that we could get, like something that I've seen being floated around, is Paul Heyman helping Seth Rollins and Seth Rollins teaming with Paul Heyman. Now that to me would be absolutely insane. If that does happen, I don't think it's going to, but if it does, that would be a major, major twist in all of this. But what has me the most excited is CM Punk's favor from Paul Heyman. I'm so glad that they did not abandon this idea because I really do think that you could do so much with this favor. You could have it be for WrestleMania, getting Punk into the WrestleMania main event, or something after WrestleMania. There's so many different avenues that WWE can take with this. So I'm very, very glad that they didn't abandon it and they are sticking to it. So I'm curious to see how Punk's favor comes into all of this as well. And looking at the feud as a whole, CM Punk and Seth Rollins has been incredible so far. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins always seem to deliver. And we're starting to see a really solid feud building between Roman Reigns and CM Punk. And it just so happens that Paul Heyman is in the middle of it all. So I love everything about this feud so far. It has been great. The promos have been fantastic. The build itself has been so good. And it's kind of hard to screw up when you have the names like CM Punk, like Roman Reigns, like Seth Rollins, and like Paul Heyman. That is why it is number 2 on this list. Up next, I've got Cody Rhodes and John Cena. The big thing coming into this feud was, what was a heel John Cena going to look like? Because we had never really seen a heel John Cena before. And now that we have our answer as to what a heel John Cena looks like, a heel John Cena has been freaking awesome so far. His promos and him saying why he did it and breaking up with the fans, putting that poor little kid on blast, which is still one of my favorite frickin' memes so far this year. And then you have Cody Rhodes, which it feels different this year with Cody Rhodes because he's not chasing the title anymore. He has the title. And I think that there is a level of adjusting left to do when it comes to a feud of this type of magnitude. While I don't think Cody Rhodes has been awful by any stretch of the imagination throughout this feud so far, the one thing that for me is holding this feud back is WWE not letting John Cena just completely destroy Cody Rhodes. And I can understand why, but when you look at some of the other feuds, and one in particular, Charlotte Flair absolutely destroyed Tiffany Stratton in a promo. Like, absolutely destroyed her. And that was something that was kind of a surprise to me. And while I'm not saying that Cody Rhodes is on the level of Tiffany Stratton by any means, I still just would kind of like to see how Cody reacts to John Cena completely torching him, because you just get that feeling that that's what they're doing right now. And that to me is ultimately holding this feud back. When you fully unleash John Cena, I feel like that would end up bringing the best out of Cody Rhodes. But something that is working for me within this feud is the kind of underlying story being John Cena, who was the face of the PG era and the face of WWE in general for so many years, taking on the face of the new era in WWE in Cody Rhodes. And I absolutely love that they are kind of leaning into that, because I do think that you can pull something very, very interesting and very intriguing off by having that as not necessarily the main reason why they're feuding, but kind of like an underlying reason. And while you could argue that John Cena has had many passing the torch moments, this to me feels like it could finally be the actual John Cena passing the torch to Cody Rhodes moment. And the thing with this feud is it feels like that there is so much more left to go through, because we have yet to have a mention of The Rock. And that to me is kind of the next big thing, is learning how The Rock is involved with this in any way. What is The Rock's relationship with John Cena at this point? So that to me has me excited to further progress down this story and continue to build this story. Because again, I think that this story has a long, long way to go, while some of the other ones that I have mentioned have kind of already established their feud, and that's spearheading them to WrestleMania. Now, I do have an honorable mention. That honorable mention is Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Io Sky. I think that their feud has been great up to this point. But there is one thing that has bothered me, and it's the fact that I'm starting to get a little worried that they are trying to overthink this feud a little bit. And a good example of what I mean by this is the whole contract situation. Rhea Ripley taking the contract and signing it herself. That's not how contracts work. And we just didn't really need a whole contract signing segment anyway, because we would have been perfectly fine if Adam Pearce was just like, all right, Rhea Ripley, you're in. But now we've got the whole contract thing. Now we've got a match between Rhea Ripley and Io Sky with Bianca Belair as a special guest referee. And that to me really just screams that they are starting to overthink it. That has me kind of worried. Because again, this feud has been great so far, but there is a point where people just don't want to see a match between Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, with Bianca Belair as a special guest referee. We want to see Rhea Ripley taking on Io Sky, taking on Bianca Belair. We want those three in a match. And I know that we're obviously going to end up getting it, but it's just the sheer fact that we have to go through all these hoops in order to get there, when it is just as simple as Adam Pearce snapping his fingers and going, all right, Rhea Ripley, you're in the match. It's a triple threat. So that is ultimately why that got bumped down to an honorable mention. Again, it's been great up to this point. I'm just kind of getting a little worried about where they're going with it. So those are the matches that I am most excited for at WrestleMania 41. And this is where I want to hear from you guys. What matches, what feuds are you most looking forward to for WrestleMania 41? And also let me know what you think about my list. Do you agree with them? Do you not agree with them? What are your takes on the feuds that I picked? As always, let me know that stuff down below in the comments. And while you're down there, swing by the description and click the Linktree link. That link will take you to all of the social medias for this channel, and I do suggest going and checking out our X page. Besides YouTube, I am most active over on X. We do updates for Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, and the PLEs. Now, I will say for the next little while, Fridays and Saturdays are super busy for me still, but we are very, very close to having those days freed up for me. So until then, I may end up missing an episode of Friday Night SmackDown here or there. I may end up missing a PLE somewhere in there. And if I'm not going to be available for Friday Night SmackDown or a PLE, I will let you know on my X page. And I am always going to be available for Monday Night Raw to provide updates and just overall have a conversation about wrestling. But I am always going to be available for Monday Night Raw, providing something unforeseen happens, which if it does, I will let you know on X. My main goal with the X page is to have a place for wrestling fans to go and talk about wrestling, especially if you're like me and you don't have a lot of people to talk to about wrestling. So if you are like me and you're looking for a place to go and talk about wrestling with wrestling fans, swing by an upcoming episode of Monday Night Raw, join in on the conversation, and maybe it's for you at the end of the day. Now that is going to do it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button. Both are free. Both help out the channel a lot. And if you have made it to this point of the video, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to watch these videos here. As always, stay tuned for more wrestling content coming in the future. We'll see you next time.